Hey there, Solar Warriors. I'm Nico Johnson, and this is SunCast. Each week, I pull back the veil on the life and business insights of clean tech entrepreneurs building the most noble and impactful companies of our time. I hope what you learn from this conversation is a catalyst for your own growth. So thanks for tuning in, and welcome to our tribe. Hey Solar Warriors, this is a SunCast Rewind. In this case in particular, on Thanksgiving, you might have missed our excellent interview with Solar Plus storage entrepreneur and solar pioneer Arnold Leitner. Well, in that episode, which I highly recommend you revisit, by the way, if you didn't listen to it yet, it's episode 318. In that episode, we glossed over a fun fact that his company, USolar, is among only 13% of companies that have launched a regulated crowdfunding campaign on a website called StartEngine and raised more than $1 million, which helped to keep USolar alive during the pandemic, no less. So I thought, why not let's go back and chat with Arnold, dig a bit deeper into exactly what this entailed, and better understand how and what they accomplished. So if you'd like to hear how to get 500 customers and $1 million in equity in 90 days through crowdfunding, using a verified platform and a tested strategy, well, you're in the right place. And also, if you're interested in your own crowdfunding campaign, well, you are in luck because I've partnered with StartEngine to offer you $1,000 towards your campaign marketing. You can shoot me an email, nico@mysuncast.com, with StartEngine in the subject line and the details of your company and the campaign that you're interested in, and I'll make that intro. You'll be on your way to $1,000 towards your crowdfunding marketing campaign. But for now, let's get ready to tune up your skills, Solar Warrior. Let's dig into crowdfunding here on SunCast. At the end of the day, you are running the third startup, and you've gone out and become very well versed in the venture world. But in 2020, the venture world doesn't look the way it did in 2010. And I'd love to hear more about how you've thought about structuring the financial aspect of your business to keep it sustainable. I understand that you've had what I would consider to be a successful, oversubscribed crowdfunding campaign. Why choose crowdfunding, and how did you get to the point where you raised $1 million on StartEngine?
So we were a huge success on StartEngine. It's about 15% of all the companies that attempt to launch in an equity crowdfunding campaign that reached the $1 million mark. We call ourselves the millicorns of the industry for the $1 million we raise. So I made a conscious decision, or we as a board made a conscious decision to pursue crowdfunding for two reasons. Number one, we could not see any appetite really in the venture industry. And you have lived through this as much as I have in early stage clean tech, especially that involves hardware. There's just a disbelief that I've seen this before and it's failed before. But I'll point out to people all the time that one of the most successful companies in the world is a hardware company, and it's called Apple Computers. They really sell hardware. So you can make money in hardware if you do well and if you do it well. But going back to that, we were at a point where we had a family rounds, which a seed round, and we were very fortunate to have a Series A round led by the MIT Angels of Northern California. Which really put us, give us credibility because they presumably understand engineering at MIT. And we were trying to tell people what we're doing is different from repackaging technology. This is a new architecture, but we needed to get it to the market. And we had pursued the idea that, we're going to meet with individual angels and get money in the door and build our first projects and get market traction that way. And that was the plan after. We just came to realize that maybe there's a better way to do this, especially if you also want to acquire customers at the same time. And I've been approached by StartEngine, and that told me about equity crowdfunding, which is different from Kickstarter, where you get a T-shirt for helping promote a movie, or they give you a free CD. So you get a product in return for the money you invest in this venture. In equity crowdfunding, which was enabled by the Jobs Act of 2008, not named after Steve Jobs, but after some acronym, it only came to market really in 2015. The industry needed to get up in speed, and StartEngine, I think, launched in 2015, allowed you to invest as an average person with normal income, not being a credit investor, into a company through equity. It's still new. And when I walked out and talked to corporate law firms and even some investors and said, well, let's do an equity crowdfunding campaign, I mean, they were up in arms. Oh my God, this is the sign that you have failed as a company. This is like penny stock. This is like selling stuff on the internet out of a warehouse in Seattle. Books. I mean, come on. This is not a respectable business to do. We need to have a top tier law firm.
If Sand Hill Road doesn't validate you, why should some neighbor on a dirt road validate you?
Yeah, and what do they know, right? And I mean, we brought you WeWork, right? So we know what we're doing. So and then and so I came to the realization that we can do both. We can acquire customers, through this process, because the difference between the investors on StartEngine and the traditional clean tech investor is they want to invest $250, $500 because they want to create a change. They want to be drivers of the future. The accredited investor market shuts you out unless you make $200,000 a year, have $1 million in net assets, which cannot include your mortgage, your home rather, or have joint income of $300,000. You can make $50,000 a year until the Job Act and buy a F-150 super cab and throw tens of thousands of dollars at this car, but you're not allowed to even invest $250 in a startup. That's absurd, right? And the equity crowdfunding removed that threshold so that everyone can be empowered and enabled to make their own decisions of who they believe is a winner in the market. And then the other thing that is beautiful about crowdfunding is that these are all aspiring customers. They're either customers. We have a pipeline of 500 customers coming out of this crowdfunding campaign. Just imagine the cost, what it would have cost us to get these many customers into a pipeline. They're either customers or aspirational customers, meaning then if they needed something like this, they would want to have something like this, but they don't need it because they live in downtown, New York.
But they are referral.
They're referrals, and not only referrals for projects, for sales, but also referrals for investors. So I spoke with a former head of the New York Angels, asked him what he thought about this, especially about all the scare tactics that were put forth by law firms and other investors. Like, you touch them, you're untouchable after that. And he said, go take the money, because there's only one way a company fails, is having no money. Right? Either it's a going concern or startup. Money is the one thing that makes a company operate. And so go get the money. And so we decided to go for it. I had some very, very important supportive investors that encouraged me to do it. And it's been exceptionally positive experience.
It seems to me that there's disruption all around us right now. Traditional VC as a category is down. I mean, we're in the pandemic. It seems to me like crowdfunding is up, similar to a few other sectors that are working, we'll call it right now in 2020. So this is like a track B. If track A is traditional venture, which we've already discussed has abandoned hardware, I would love to hear when certainly StartEngine catalyzed this idea for you, but they're not the only platform. How did you make the decision, okay, we'll go with StartEngine versus other marketplaces, and how long did it take?
Yeah. So the answer is easy. The other ones didn't want us. So, well, not all of them. I believe I applied to WeFunder, I think is the name of the equity crowdfunding platform, and they didn't believe that there would be a successful raise. StartEngine had a very different experience. They have built a community of people which apparently liked clean tech, and they had very positive experiences with StorEn, another technology company in the battery sector. So they were very bullish about it. They were also very positive about advertising on Facebook and bringing people into the investment community. They had a very holistic approach, a comprehensive approach of how to raise money, and they also decided that they don't charge you to join StartEngine. If they didn't feel comfortable that you would raise at least enough money for them to get repaid, they wouldn't want you on your platform. So they selected the companies, and I felt, that's a really nice validation, because everyone lets you post on their platform. You pay me $10,000, I'll put up your company, but they have no incentive to really make you successful. And that model of them saying, we have really built an equity crowdfunding community that likes clean tech, and we'll we'll put our money where our mouths are. And that really made the decision easy.
Progress and change are not achieved by standing still. We must challenge the status quo and do things differently. There are moments in time that change the course of our history, and for us, that time has come, a moment to act now for a brighter solar future. In a global scenario where the demand for renewable energy is constantly growing, solar has the power to shape new and powerful energy models to drive progress and prosperity for a sustainable world. At SunCast, we stand with FEMER, and together we can shape the future of solar. Learn more about how FEMER is changing the future of solar at solar.femer.com. That's solar.fimer.com. I've been wondering, what's your least favorite solar asset management activity? Those daily, weekly, sometimes monthly deliverables that you just have to check off the list, but can be such a drag. Well, let me tell you how to press the easy button and get going on the work that really matters by automating your invoicing and ticketing and reporting with PowerHub. Focus on the work that you want to do. Take the boring stuff off your plate with PowerHub. You can go to powerhub.com/SunCast to learn more. Well, from start of idea to initiating the campaign when you launched on StartEngine, how long did that take?
We made a decision in mid-January to do a crowdfunding campaign. And I think we signed the paperwork sometime in middle of February. There's always this idea, well, you can launch in 30 days and 90 days. The reality is it always takes longer. We did launch, I believe it was May 15, somewhere in the middle of May. And what was necessary was to have collateral. You have to present yourself to these investors in a way that makes it easy for them to understand and also related to what you're doing. The problem needs to be relatable. The solution needs to be relatable. And I also believe the people need to be relatable. That required us to shoot video, do animations that really made it easy to understand and appealing. And you earlier when we started the interview mentioned that you liked Skyfuel's original Flash-based website, which was really innovative at the time. And I've kept some of the tradition, and I always say to myself, selling is a really important skill. No one has ever made money on something he hasn't sold. So if I believe I have a great product, I must sell it in a great way. And so people can see what's behind it. And so that's what we try to do. And I think we were very successful doing so.
Did you hire anyone who advised you on the operational as well as the creative process of crowdfunding?
StartEngine does a great job in giving you the young team that by now has experience for a couple of years of what needs to be done. And I'll refer to this in a moment because I really made friends with them and they made friends with me. But going first, I initially designing the campaign, I didn't take anyone's advice. I mean, I didn't get a consultant. What should I do? Well, I followed my instinct. What would I like to see? And if you've ever watched our StartEngine pitch video, I decided to put myself front and center. I wanted people to meet me. This is me. This is what we're going to do together. Trust me, we're going to get this done. That was a personal decision, and I think may now have set a trend that showed that something works over the very slick promotional video. But going back to StartEngine team, having tried to raise money, or have raised money, not tried, but have raised money, but worked hard to raise money for a couple of years. Whenever the StartEngine team proposed an idea of what to do, I said, if it raises money, let's do it, right? And it's including following the lead on how to write the campaign page. If the writer who has a degree in English doesn't understand it, it needs to go. Whether I think it's understandable, doesn't matter. If she thinks no one understands it, it needs to go off the website, off the campaign site. And similarly, if they believe ads on Facebook work well, let's do the ads on Facebook. So I really trusted them and keep your campaign page updated. All the things they ask you to, I did it. I was a good patient, so to speak, at the doctor's office, right? And I took the pill and did the exercise, and success was there.
I love the approach that you've taken, and I'd like to go a layer deeper and understand how essential this was to the life of Solar, what you learned, and perhaps a bit of the process that you found particularly interesting that you'd like to share, maybe how dynamic it was.
Yes. So we put ourselves in early January. We get the first news that there was a virus coming. I took it very seriously. My kids were wearing face masks and eye shields in school in the middle of February. I realized, well, how can I meet a venture capitalist? How can I meet a family office member? Because all my networking has been in coffee shops, right? Meeting people or at conferences. All of this was about to go away. And in contrast, people would be at home. People still have $250 or $500 to invest in a company. But what about a family office that pulls back and says, hey, we're going to take a wait and see approach. We don't know where the world is going. So the fact that we went on track B, what you referred to earlier, the crowdfunding track, gave us an opportunity that we would have not had otherwise. Number one, there were more people on crowdfunding. And on the other side, the family office market would have been inaccessible to us, or the high net worth individuals. And I'm not sure we'd be around right now. We'd be instead of putting systems on the ground and going for next financing with StartEngine soon.
Are you going to do it again?
We will do it again. It's yes, we will do it again.
Does the valuation change each round?
Yes, the valuation changes each
as
round.
It should.
Yes, as it should. Yes.
Yeah.
Because I think we have accomplished a lot in the meantime, and we'll do more by the time we return to the market, hopefully in early next year. But going back to this, I don't know if we would be around anymore. Now we're a successful company out there running, looking at the next financing, and otherwise we would have been in a world of pain. But there's one thing I want to share with everyone, because there's something very unique about crowdfunding, which is really became enjoyable, is that there's a dynamic to it that is unusual for any other ways of raising money, and that's it's the momentum of the crowd. It's the reason why some bars and some clubs in certain cities are popular and other clubs aren't, right? Because everyone wants to go there because everyone else is there. So, and what you do in crowdfunding is very similar. I mean, of course, your company has to carry the weight, and your idea has to project trust in people, and they want to invest in it. But you also have to make the right checks. And so what you have to do is you have to seed the campaign with some of your friends and family members to get some momentum. Then there's a rush, and the first $100,000 or $300,000 come in from investors, and then things plateau. And you have to feed it with Facebook ads, with outreach, with updates. And then you get to a point where you have raised about $500,000, and then an update goes out to the entire StartEngine community, to all of those who haven't watched all the companies carefully. They get an email, oh, you Solar raised $500,000. Well, I want to be in on that one. So then you get a sudden flush of money, and you move forward, and you work very hard on Facebook and with your updates and email campaigns, and you get to $800,000, and then another email goes out, and then the next group of StartEngine investors come in and say, like, wow, I definitely don't want to miss out on that one. They almost made it. And then you reach $1 million. So it is not a linear process. It's literally a roller coaster, although it doesn't go down. But you know what I mean? You go up steep and then plateaus. It's a continual change in dynamics, and there's a lot of fun. And I allowed these guys at StartEngine to guide us in that process.
In that way, it is in some ways analogous to a traditional raise. It's just that in a traditional raise, the public doesn't get to see it. There is a sense. I mean, Instagram is a great example of this voracious appetite once people saw that it was happening and they were going to get bought. It was imminent. Like it's tripled and quadrupled in value in a matter of days.
Yes. And I want to speak to the angel investors out there, or people that are not comfortable with equity crowdfunding. I have two managers of private equity firms that invested some personal money in Solar that knew me I would never expect that they would put money in, but they contacted me saying, hey, I just put $10,000 into this company, which is not what they should be writing checks. We expect $250, but good for them. And they said, well, I just know you and I trust you. And they came back to me saying, look, I really love the process. I'm changed. My perspective on equity crowdfunding, I'd reached out to my personal network because you want to seed this campaign. And two of them included managers of private equity firms. And they decided to invest some personal money because they knew me, try to give it a go and see, how to like it. And both of them came back, both up to the ante. They both put more money in while the crowdfunding campaign was running, and they wrote like $10,000 checks, which is not what typically is being invested. But they have the means, and they both came back and emailed me and said, I invested and I was amazed by the process. I have a completely different view of equity crowdfunding. I thought it was this little dinky company selling books out of a warehouse in Seattle, that never arrives in my mailbox. And rather, I saw there was a Q&A, there was a transparent process, there was an offering memorandum that I don't see when I go into a coffee shop and meet an entrepreneur. I will do more of this in the future. Even for my angel investments, I'll go out and and that's how I felt, right? I think I always represented a company properly in meetings with angels and everything. But the idea that I had to actually back up everything I said on the campaign page made me feel good about knowing that I know what I'm saying and that these things are true.
Well, it's clear that the equity raise for Arnold on StartEngine was a revolutionary experience. And I loved that personal story about how his existing investors even got wrapped up in the experience on the platform, investing through the platform. So thank you, Arnold, for going into detail and breaking it down for us here on this SunCast Rewind. Well, Arnold's story continues to inspire me. I hope that it inspired you, and I'd love to know how. Are you crowdfunding? Have you learned how to hack the process? I want to share with the SunCast tribe. Hey, what did we miss? I'd love to hear about it. You can share your learning along with Arnold and I over on LinkedIn. Make sure you tag us. And as I mentioned in the outset, if in fact you're interested in kicking off your own crowdfunding campaign with StartEngine, well, I've partnered with them to offer you $1,000 towards your campaign marketing. So be sure to shoot me an email, nico@mysuncast.com, the words StartEngine in the subject line, and the details about your company and your campaign, and I'll make sure that you get the proper intro to the StartEngine team. Hey, do you want more episodes like these? You can find more than 320 episodes and resources and highlights from all the discussions that we've had and goodies that we reference on these episodes over at mysuncast.com. That's also where you can sign up for the newsletter so you don't miss out every time we publish something here on SunCast, and it's a lot lately. And of course, a special thank you to our sponsors who help make this podcast possible. You can learn more about them over at mysuncast.com/sponsor. You can also learn how you can partner with us to reach thousands of solar warriors and clean tech champions just like you twice a week. Remember, you are what you listen to. Thanks again for showing up, Solar Warrior. It's half the battle.